Well, let's get a business perspective on this entire COVID-19 situation, because the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce says it supports the government for its strong response to the public health threat facing the country. In a media release, the Chamber added that they believe the expansionary monetary policies announced are needed at this time to allow for liquidity in the system. The reduction of the reserve requirement from 17% to 14%, along with the reduced repo rate, will increase the money supply. Well, we're joined now by the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, Gabriel Faria. He's on the line with us. Thank you very much for making yourself available, Mr. Faria. What is your overview from a business perspective as far as businesses surviving this very difficult and what is likely to be protracted period?
Good morning to you. I will tell you that collaboration is the number one thing that we must focus on. What I've seen over 4 days is such engagement with labor, government, and I mean, I started to see with affordable food and food supply, manufacturing, and the discussions that have been lot. Focused on solutions. I was thinking, I think it was yesterday or yesterday, at a national tripartite committee with labor. And what you're really seeing for the first time is people coming together, looking for solutions and genuine solutions. And I think that is the best thing that's come out of it.
And when we talk about that willingness to come together, is there a genuine appreciation that we will all have to share in this burden? Because we have that discussion all the time about who takes the biggest hit and all of that sort of thing. Is there that willingness to work together to minimize the impact on the most vulnerable in our society?
I feel when I hear this talk, when I hear when I hear the government attempt dealing with this, I genuinely feel people recognize no one can win. You know, I heard a bar owner on one of the TV stations yesterday morning. He has closed his bar, and you can see genuine. I mean, how do I run like? But while he's saying that, he says, "I recognize this is the right thing to do." And him and his employees are who I think we all need to help to recognize that kindness. The government has taken strong, decisive leadership that, in my mind, while I may have disagreements with because of technical, they are showing strong leadership, and I think providing a sense of calm is also to guide us forward.
And in that process, how difficult is it? Because business, like anybody, any organization, any system which requires planning and thinking ahead and taking in contingencies and so on, because this is something brand new. This is something very much unknown. And even as I'm speaking to you, I'm watching some breaking news coming off the BBC where the European Union's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, has tested positive for coronavirus. So it affects everybody. I think the Canadian Prime Minister and his wife has tested positive. A lot of powerful people, famous people have tested positive. And we don't know how long this is going to go for, Mr. Faria. We don't know if it is going to have a relapse. We're hearing Asian countries experiencing a second wave of imported cases. How challenging is it in what was already a challenging business environment with the state of the economy to even project deeper into 2020 from a business perspective?
Guys, nobody has that answer, as you said. I feel more concerned for many of us reaching out to me every day. And to be honest with you, can anyone have answers to what the future is? No, we can't. What we need is to be calm. We need to make sure we don't panic, and we need to know their support. And in the chamber, while our staff have to be fragmented, the way we are working on our offices, our focus is how do we support our members? How do we support the wider community? And I don't have an answer. I can't speak to the part. The part for us is serious collaboration, openness, recognizing that I can't win at the expense of employees or the employees win at the expense of the employer. And the government has to work together with us. And I've seen genuine effort.
And what would you say to not just your members, but the business community generally, given the attempt by the government? The Prime Minister was at the forefront of it yesterday, repeated much of what he would have said on Monday. At this point of using moral suasion, without having to come down with the heavy hand of the law or legislation and so on, what would you say to those business people, those landowners, those people who are renting properties and so on, who might be inclined to put the squeeze on their tenants or their employees or whatever, and say, well, okay, time's hard, we have to lay you off and so on? What would you like to say to those individuals?
Well, I think we have said it. We have said it to our members. We have said, be compassionate, recognize that you can't, for example, staff. We recognize that if you release a staff member, because you can't pay them their full salary, let's say you're operating, that how will they live? And I don't think even the employees are going to be unreasonable, because the reality is that we might not be able to pay somebody for 8 hours a day, a small balance, say, okay, I'm going to do this instead, and I can pay you this. And again, I expect the government to put some short-term solutions, 1 month or 2 months in place. I expect that you're going to see the NIS system probably have to be utilized. I expect you're going to have to see what government does not get through cards. So I think that you're going to see a genuine support. I've spoken to landlords that said we recognize that business is operating at this level. So we need to make some concessions. So I think there's genuine willingness to support each other at this time.
How resilient do you think we are, though? Because when we take all the factors of our lifestyle into consideration, Mr. Faria, a food import bill going into the $4, $5, $6, $7 billion. Yes, business relies heavily on imports in many cases, or taste for things foreign, and even with that, the concerns about or levels of import cover, and taking all of those business indicators into consideration, and how much this situation could impact on that, how much is going to eat into, again, maybe the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. At the end of this, whether it's in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, or maybe towards the end of the year, do you think it would show us as a people, as from our business habits and so on, would it show us to be resilient enough, or having been complacent for far too long?
A crisis is something, as somebody said, don't face a crisis. Out of this, we will come stronger. I'll tell you what I think is the number one requirement: visible, mature leadership. And I think the government has shown that. I think business is going to step up to the game. Listening to the labor movement in a meeting, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, I have seen mature leadership from them. So out of this fight, I think we will come out so much stronger, because we recognize that the labor movement can't strike, the businesses can't overprice. I met with the supermarket association, and they're saying the same thing. How do we make sure people get the product? We had a meeting with the Minister of Agriculture, again, talking about we have to create a separation food importers. So out of this, it will force us to become stronger. And maybe, when we talk about oil prices and energy, this is going to make us a stronger nation. We all have to work together.
Mr. Faria, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us this morning, and we apologize to our listeners and viewers if it is the line was a bit shaky at times, but I think we were able to get the general gist of his comments, sounding hopeful, sounding in a way not necessarily confident, but believing that this crisis will bring the best out of all of us at all levels, even if we talk about the usual antagonism between labor and business and government involvement and so on. There is some measure of optimism as is being expressed by the CEO of the chamber. But as he said correctly, nobody knows where this is going to take us. Nobody knows. None of these so-called big countries with all their efficient planning and whatever else, nobody knows, because there is the element of the unknown, where it's not about interpretation and bias and whatever. It's about fact. It's about illness. It's about health and wellness, and the fear that creates when there's something that you can't see that is basically shutting you down. It is the irony of ironies that with all of the things about big weaponry and big guns and so on, it is something that 1 million of it would fit on the head of a pin that is basically shutting down the entire world.